Tonight we journey not to a fictional haunted house, but to a place where every brick, every shadow, holds the imprint of an unimagining suffering and death. A place whispered to be one of the most haunted locations in America, with a past so dark it still chills the bone. We go to Waverly Hills Sanitarium. Now, for those of you who might not know, Waverly Hills isn't just an old building. It sits high on a hill in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was built for a very specific and very tragic purpose. In the early 1900s, America was facing a terrifying epidemic. It was called the White Plague, but we know it today as tuberculosis. This wasn't like a cold or the flu. It was a devastating disease that attacked the lungs, and back then, there was no cure. People would cough, grow weaker and weaker, and eventually many would pass. The city of Louisville was hit particularly hard. So in 1910, a small 2-story wooden building was opened on Waverly Hills, specifically to house and treat those with the White Plague. But the epidemic grew, and that small building quickly became too small to house all these patients. So in 1926, the structure that we see today in many pictures of Waverly Hills was completed. It was a massive 5-story building made of concrete and stone, designed to be a state-of-the-art facility. Waverly Hills wasn't just a hospital, it was a self-contained community. It had its own post office, its own water treatment plant, even its own farm to grow food for patients and staff. The idea was to keep the patients in a clean, isolated environment, hoping that fresh air, good food, and plenty of rest would help them recover. Treatment plants back there are way different than we would see today. Doctors believed that fresh air and sunshine were crucial, so many patients were kept on they were kept on open air porches, even in the coldest months. They bundled up in blankets, breathing in cold air, clean air. Imagine that, trying to get better in the freezing cold. But despite the efforts, the death toll at Waverly Hills was staggering. Tuberculosis was a relentless enemy. While exact numbers are debatable, it's widely believed that tens of thousands of people died within those walls. Every day, more patients arrived, and every day, more lives were lost. Imagine being a patient there. You're terribly sick, isolated from your family, and you see others around you succumbing to the same disease. It must have been a very somber and often terrifying place and experience. So many people passed. The staff had a problem with how to discreetly remove the bodies. So as not to cause panic or despair among the living patients, they came up with a grim solution, the body chute. So the body chute was a long enclosed tunnel that descended over 500 feet from the hospital building down to the railroad tracks at the bottom of the hill. Deceased patients were placed on a motorized cart and sent down the chute directly into hearses out of sight of the patients. It was a way to preserve morale, but also became a symbol of immense tragedy that unfolded there. Waverly Hills operated as a tuberculosis sanitarium until the 1960s. By then, a medical breakthrough had occurred, the development of antibiotics that could finally cure tuberculosis. This was a cause of celebration, but it also meant that the sanitariums like Waverly Hills were no longer needed. In 1961, Waverly Hills closed their doors. But the story of Waverly Hills doesn't end there. In 1962, it reopened as a geriatric hospital called Woodhaven Geriatric Center. It cared for elderly patients with various needs. However, this period was also marked by controversy. There were reports of patient neglect and even mistreatment. Woodhaven closed in 1982, and the grand building was left empty, slowly falling into despair. Now that we've made it through a brief history of Waverly Hills, come back for part 2, where we talk about Waverly Hills being one of the most haunted buildings in America. If you enjoyed this content, like, share, follow. I'll see you at part 2.